Western Airlines Flight 2605 is flying between Los Angeles and Mexico City. The aircraft operating the flight is a wide-body McDonnell Douglas DC-10. The plane, registered as N903WA, is painted with Western Airlines' DC-10 spaceship livery. With the spaceship layout, the aircraft has 46 first-class seats and 193 coach seats. The plane first flew in 1973, and in 6 years of service, it logged a total of 24,614 flight hours. In command of the flight is Captain Charles Gilbert. His co-pilot is First Officer Ernst Richel, and the flight engineer is Dan Walsh. In total, there are 75 passengers and 13 crew members on board. Among the passengers is Ken Lukoff, a news producer for ABC News who is en route to El Salvador to cover early stages of the Salvadorian Civil War. In the previous months, he had been assigned as ABC's field producer to cover American Airlines Flight 191, a DC-10 that crashed shortly after departing Chicago earlier in the year. Ken Lukoff stated, "I have not flown a DC-10 since the crash in Chicago, and I won't fly a DC-10 unless it's the only way I can get there." Flight 2605 is now approaching Mexico City International Airport. The airport has two runways, runway 23 left and runway 23 right. Runway 23 left has full instrument approach equipment, including an instrument landing system or ILS, while runway 23 right does not. 12 days before the departure of Western Airlines Flight 2605 on October 19, 1979, a notice to airmen was issued stating that runway 23 left would be closed until further notice for resurfacing work. As Flight 2605 approaches Mexico City International Airport, air traffic control clears the crew for an instrument approach using the ILS of runway 23 left, with an expected landing on runway 23 right. With runway 23 left closed for maintenance, what air traffic control expects Flight 2605 to do is to perform what is known as a sidestep maneuver to the open runway 23 right. This means that the flight is to follow the instrument landing system's glide path towards runway 23 left, and when runway 23 right comes into sight, the pilots will line up the plane with 23 right and land visually. During the approach, the flight crew of Flight 2605 is advised 4 different times that the landing runway is 23 right and not 23 left. However, the phrase sidestep or sidestep approach is never used by Mexico Air Traffic Control to describe the approach. Also, there is no published visual representation of the sidestep approach available to the crew. Text remarks for the sidestep approach to runway 23 right describe only ceiling and visibility minimums. During final approach, weather conditions deteriorate. A recent weather report indicates that visibility is down to 2-3 miles depending on direction. Flight 2605 is on short final to the closed runway at 5:42 a.m. Cockpit voice recordings of the last seconds of the flight indicate that the first officer and the captain agree that they are cleared for 23 right and not the runway they are approaching. The captain further states that they are in fact still on the approach to the 23 left, saying, "No, this is the approach to the goddamned left." Then, at a speed of 130 knots, the aircraft's main landing gear touches down, left gear on the grass left of runway 23 left, and right gear on the runway shoulder. 1 second later, the crew decides to abort the landing and applies go-around power. The first officer begins to describe the missed approach procedure and states that the flight would climb to 8,500 feet. Approximately 3.3 seconds after the touchdown, and in a 10-degree nose-up attitude, the right main gear collides with a dump truck loaded with 10 tons of earth. Most of the right main gear separates from the aircraft and struck the right horizontal stabilizer. The impact of the landing gear destroys the truck, fatally injuring its driver. The damaged aircraft, still airborne with takeoff thrust engaged, begins to bank to the right. The bank angle increases until the flap of the right wing struck the cab of an excavator 1,500 meters from the runway threshold. The plane's bank angle continues to increase to the point that the right wing begins to cut into the ground and taxiways nearby the closed runway. The end of the right wing eventually struck the corner of an aircraft repair hangar, causing damage to the hangar and also fracturing the DC-10's right wing. The DC-10 then impacts an Eastern Airlines service building north of both runways 26 seconds after the plane touched down. This final impact causes a structural breakup of the aircraft and causes a fire that consumed most of the aircraft's structure. Thanks to the black box, we can now listen to the last moments of the flight. The black box recording for the crash is so sad that, well, I'll let you hear it for yourself.